All right, you guys, let's talk about flock frustration. All right, because it does happen. It's a fact. We're dealing with cutting machines, we're dealing with cutting a fabric substance on our cutting machines that has adhesive on it and a backing. So let's talk about it. Now, this is a video that's mainly for those who want to cut their flock without with the backing on, not without the backing. Without the backing, usually you don't have any issues, but you could still have issues, and I'm gonna touch on that in a minute. But when it comes to cutting rhinestone flock, and this applies to any flock that you're using, that applies to like rocket flock because it's a thicker, more robust material. The thinner flocks, you can still apply this to them and still use some of these same techniques, but with the rocket flock, it's a thicker, sturdier material. But at any rate, this is results that I was getting from cutting the flock on my Graph Tech. Okay, now I have a Graph Tech. I also have a Romeo. I also have a Cricut Maker. I used to have a Cricut Air 2. I also have a Cameo 4. So several cutting machines, right? And I have the Cricut Joy. When I use the Cricut Joy, when I use my Cricut Air 2, I never had peeling issues out of my flock. Never. And that's with the backing on the cutting mat. But again, we'll get into something else that could cause a problem with that. But as you see, I was having issues recently. I needed to cut several of these templates. And it was just, I can't, this is a waste of time to have to weed, even with me utilizing the method where you peel it off and you take it and you lay it on the surface and rub it and then peel it and the dots stay behind and you scrape them off. Because I was even using old transfer tape so that I don't have to scrape. I just take the transfer tape, throw it away. But it's still too much. We should not have to go through that, especially when you have a good cutting machine. And I know my Graph Tech is an excellent cutting machine with the same flock, same machine. I usually don't have issues with my flock being able to peel without having to deal with this. So I was kind of frustrated. In the last couple of days, I've been sitting there reflecting on it. I was like, okay, let's go back to the basics on how I fixed this the first time. Okay. So at any rate, let's talk about it. Here's the flock, right? These are the results that you're getting. This is not ideal. This is not what we want. So when I saw it cutting like this, I said, okay, what is wrong? And I could put in a new blade, but it's not always the blade. So that's why that was not my first go-to. My first go-to was actually to increase the pressure a little bit. After cleaning the blade, I increased the pressure a little bit. Oh, and another thing that I did with the Graph Tech, which I should have known better, but with the Graph Tech, you can add an overcut, which means it'll cut a circle and then it'll go just a little bit past the circle, right? So that just in case some machines who don't cut a complete circle, it'll leave a little teeny piece of material, whether that's a sticker, whether that's flock, whether that's anything. And so when you go to take the sticker off or whatever, it's still hanging on by a mere little thread. So that's what overcut does. It eliminates that. So like if it's a square, it'll go like that, go to the corner, and then go a little past the corner. That's overcut. So I turned overcut on, and this is the results that I got from turning on overcut. Overcut actually punched holes in the material all the way through to the back, and that was not ideal either. And also remember, I increased the pressure of the blade, force rather. So that wasn't good. And then on top of that, not only did it put holes in it, but some of these holes still would not let me weed them. Like I couldn't get these out, even with me with my finger, like I have been able to do in the past. That was frustrating. So when I saw this and the overcut wasn't working and the pressure wasn't working, something had to give, because again, there's a waste of time. So let me show you something that I did do to try and help. All right, so over here at the Graph Tech, my Graph Tech, I cut without a mat. Okay, so I don't use a mat with this, and the reason being is because this particular machine has a built-in mat. So this cutting strip right here, this strip is a strip of plastic, and when you buy a replacement for this, this is actually called the cutting mat. This is a mat with the machine. Let me show you in case you have a Graph Tech and you need to get one. See, it says cutting mat. This is the part number that you want to look for, and it comes with 2 strips in there, right? And you take the old strip, you peel it off, you put the new strip down, and it gives you a nice smooth surface for your material to cut on. Now, I wish I had kept the old one so that I could show you what it looked like. It was grungy. Like, it had deep cuts and grooves and scars all along this area, because this is mainly what I cut. I don't cut anything else with this machine but my butt flock, right? So in this 12-inch area behind the strip, it was horrible. So I replaced it, and let me show you what the results were. So you remember, this is where I did the overcut. I took the overcut off. I put it back where it was. Left the pressure, though. I did leave the pressure. And now this is what I was getting once I took the overcut off, and I cleaned the blade, and I cleaned and replaced that strip. Actually, yes, that's right. That's what I did with this one. So it was better, but there was still something off with it. And so I increased the pressure a little bit more, and this is the results that I was getting. So it's like tweaking here and there, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't, but that cutting strip did make a difference. Let me show you why. So for those who don't have a Graph Tech, you would have just a regular cutting machine. This is a mat where I was cutting the circles for my buttons. So these things here, and this was like a cardstock that I was cutting, and was cutting it too deep, and so it cut grooves in this mat. You can actually feel the grooves, you can see the grooves. It looks terrible. This mat is in horrible condition. Well, another thing that I cut, I was using this on my Silhouette Cameo 4. So another thing that I cut with my Silhouette all the time is labels. So I cut the labels out for my boxes. These are the labels that I use for our boxes of stones. And so I cut every last one of those on my Silhouette Cameo 4. I don't use any other machine. So I know how that Cameo performs in cutting out those stickers. So whenever I use this mat to cut those stickers out, and the stickers weren't peeling cleanly, and I was having issues, it just wasn't doing right, I didn't change the blade. All I did was get a nice new clean mat. It doesn't have to be perfect, because you do see I've been using it, but once I switched to a mat that didn't have those grooves, my stickers cut clean, they cut perfect. Not changing the blade, not changing the pressure, not changing anything but the mat. The mat does make a difference in how your materials, whether it's vinyl, whether it's stickers, whether it's flock, your surface that you're cutting over the top of does make a difference, right? And I'm gonna show you something else that made a difference, was how I peeled it, right? So here's a better look at the results that I've been getting since changing out that cutting mat. And here is the same, because I cut 5 out at a time. And what I did, now this is going to be a little bit difficult because I'm one-handed, I'm holding the camera, my phone. So what I also did was how I peeled. I started at the upper right corner. You see the hearts are upright. So this is the upper right hand corner, and I just kind of peel pretty quick. Right now I ain't going quick enough, and you see how where I stopped, it didn't pull. But if you pull with a nice strong quick steady motion, which I can't do one-handed, it will peel nice and clean. And I peel kind of low. See, it came out nice and clean. So you may want to try that. Instead of peeling up, peel kind of like roll peel it off, if you know what I'm saying. See if that helps with whatever flock it is that you're using. See if that makes a difference for you. Look at here. And go kind of quick with it, and hopefully you'll see a difference in how your weeding goes with your flock or with your stickers or with whatever. This again applies to any one of those cutting machines. Look, now I'm stuck to the stuff. That's crazy. Any one of the machines that you use, you should be able to make these kind of tweaks and adjustments, but pay attention to the surface that you're cutting on top of. So if you're not using a cutting mat, then look at the cutting strip, because even with my, I got stuff sitting on the Romeo. That's a darn shame. I know, y'all. It's all right. Even with the Romeo, this is your cutting strip right here. So feel your cutting strip. If you're cutting without the mat, feel your cutting strip and see if it's all gouged and, you know, have all kind of burrs and stuff from where the needle or the blade has been cutting into that. And if you're not cutting with a mat, this will affect your cuts. It just will. So you may wind up having to cut a little further down where it's smoother for your surface. But at any rate, I just wanted to share that quick video to see if this helps you with, again, doesn't matter what you're cutting, you have to test. You have to see how things go. You have to, you know, make adjustments and get it to work. So just keep that in mind. And let me know how that works for you down in the comments below. What is the pressure that you use with the cutting machine that you use? So if you have a Cameo, let me know if you have a Cameo and these are the settings. If you have a Romeo, let me know what Romeo you're using and the settings that you're using, so that others who may come watch this video can have a nice starting point on their pressure and the time, I'm sorry, their pressure and the speed that they're using with their machines. Hang on and I'll show you mine with the Graph Tech. So with my Graph Tech right now, I'm using a speed of 30, a force of 28. And it says new blade, but it's not a new blade. This blade is actually kind of old, but that's what I named it in the settings because at the time I did change the blade to a new blade. So let me know what your settings are in the comments below.